Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Asagi Igawa, Sakura Igawa, Kamimura Mika, Part 1. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's start the story. In the Konoha Academy, the students of various classes gathered around their respective classes' sparring rings, many of them chatting excitedly amongst themselves, because of the presence of special guests. Dude, I think she looked at me. I bet I'm gonna get picked. Spoke the form of one Kiba Inuzuka, as he leered at a female figure in a skin-tight bodysuit that left nothing to the imagination. The woman in question was standing next to the Chunin teachers, Iruka and Mizuki, observing the class spars, and occasionally speaking to or asking them questions. If you keep on acting like a creep, there's no way she'll pick you. Spoke the form of Naruto Uzumaki, as he nudged his classmate in the ribs. Even so, he couldn't entirely blame Kiba for his excitement. For today, a number of Taimanin were present at the academy. The story goes that after the Kyuubi attack about 15 years ago, some of its yokai still remained behind even after a sealing. Konoha's research and development branch captured many samples of the remnant yokai, and began to research ways to make stronger and more powerful ninjas to combat future threats and potential Biju Jinchuriki attacks. About 12 or so years ago, the results of said research bore fruit, as the R&D department found a means to implant the Kyuubi's yokai into others. Many volunteers were gathered for the procedure. Tragically, a vast majority of the male participants died during the procedure or were corrupted into a berserker state by the yokai in their bodies, and had to be put down. For reasons unknown, females seemed to be far more compatible with the Kyuubi's yokai, and thus had far higher chances of survival, although the procedure still held the aforementioned risks. The subjects who survived became known as the Taimanin, elite Kunoichi, who are said to possess the strength of 50 or even 100 jonin all on their own, and thanks to the yokai in their bodies, they were able to unlock certain abilities that regular humans, and even bloodline users, don't have access to. However, despite their strengths, there are also drawbacks. After the procedure, their chakra networks change, and are unable to reproduce natural chakra anymore, thus preventing them from using jutsu techniques safely. If they use too much of their yokai at one time for using jutsu or in combat, they run the risk of becoming feral beasts. His only instinct is to either destroy everything in sight, and/or violate anyone within reach. To counteract this fatal flaw, a special procedure was added that allowed Taimanin to form a bond with a selected partner, sometimes referred to as marriage by the Taimanin themselves, and use their partner's chakra to empower themselves. To be chosen as a Taimanin's partner is considered a tremendous honor, and there also comes numerous special privileges with it. As for how a Taimanin chooses a partner, it is said that they can sense when someone compatible for them is nearby. Thus Taimanin are allowed to choose anyone who they deem compatible as their partners. Hence the Taimanin's presence at the academy. They were scouting for viable partners. Due to how few in number they were, and because of low volunteers for the yokai implantation procedure in recent years, it was fairly common for a Taimanin to be older than their chosen partner. Supposedly, Taimanin had to be careful in choosing their partners, due to the taxing demands for the chakra they sorely needed. So naturally people with low chakra reserves were often ignored by the Taimanin, hence why they are almost constantly seeking potential partners. However, there was one Taimanin in particular that everyone wanted to be chosen by Asagi Igawa. Famously known as the Almighty Taimanin. She has never once been beaten in combat, and is confirmed to be one of, if not the strongest Taimanin ever created. She was as cool as a cucumber, and was considered to be one of the most beautiful women in Konoha. She was practically a celebrity. She often appeared on TV for interviews, gave motivational speeches, generously donated to good charities, and her face often appeared on countless magazines who unanimously named her most desirable woman in Konoha. Civilians adored her, shinobi respected her. She was practically the holy grail for anyone lucky enough to be chosen for marriage. It should also be noted that it is exceptionally common for a Taimanin and their chosen partner to become lovers, which is probably why Taimanin refer to their partnerships as marriage. Though the lovers part was probably what had Kiba so excited. Meanwhile, as the Uzumaki mused to himself, Asagi was watching the class spars with a bored expression, watching a pair of fangirl-type students engaging in a pitiful schoolyard-type scuffle that involves scratching and a lot of hair pulling. These are supposed to be the future of Konoha's military, a sad future indeed. She thought to herself while shaking her head in dismay. She was here to find a worthy partner, not watch these cringeworthy spars. On a positive note, she could sense somebody in the crowd that could be a good match for her, but she couldn't pinpoint their exact location. Far too many people for her to get a proper reading. What about Sasuke-kun? He's strong and talented, and is the top student of the entire academy. He'd make a perfect partner for you, Asagi-san. Spoke the form of Iruka, as he gave a charming smile that made bile rise up in her throat. I have already been introduced to Sasuke-san a million times. I am not interested in him. What a Taimanin seeks in a partner varies from case to case. She explained calmly while suppressing the urge to toss him out of the village. However, if he kept annoying her, she would have no choice but to do so to get him out of her face, and then she'd make her apologies to the Hokage later. Her teal-colored eyes continued to scan the students until finally her eyes settled on a certain blonde with whisker-like markings on his face, who seemed to be thinking to himself about something. He broke out his thoughts when he noticed her looking at him, and then gave a simple and friendly wave towards her, making her smile, and wave back in turn. Not a bad sign. Many have, in the past, would mouth pick me or something like that at the first opportunity. This one seemed far more humble and polite. She had heard stories about him from both the Sandaime and the populace at large. She had heard of his lonely childhood, and how he was often treated by the villagers due to their grudge against the Bijuru, and poor Naruto was the scapegoat of their anger. She had also heard stories of his many pranks, and his ability to outrun and evade entire platoons and squads of chunin who tried to chase him down, despite the fact he was still an academy student, which showed his impressive stamina and agility. Very interesting. That one, with the whisker markings. Who is he? Asagi asked the scarred chunin, who, at the mention of whisker markings, instantly frowned and made a face, as if he'd bitten into a lemon. Him? Naruto Uzumaki. Though I don't think you want anything to do with him. He's a local troublemaker, and is the worst student in the class, and has already failed the graduation exam twice. He's nowhere near worthy of being partners with the Taimanin, least of all you Asagi-san. Iruka answered in an even tone, however it was very easy to detect the venomous undertones in his voice. The brunette scoffed in dismissal, as she spoke in a calm manner. I'll be the judge of that for myself. Bring him here. I wish to talk to him. At a request, the scarred chunin jaw dropped, as he glanced between the forms of Asagi and of Naruto and the crowd of students. With great reluctance, he sighed and obeyed since it was the law to provide a Taimanin with whatever they wanted or needed without question. He stomped over towards the whiskered teen, and then pointed at him while speaking in a gruff voice. Naruto. Come on, Asagi wants to have a word with you. As soon as those words left his mouth, everyone that heard them jaw dropped and stared at the whiskered teen who seemed equally stunned by this request. He wouldn't have ever, in a million years, expected to be asked for the name of a famous Taimanin. They all stared at him, as murmurs started to rise up amongst the crowd. Some seemed to think that Naruto may have done something to offend the famed Taimanin. Others wondered if she was legit considering him for marriage. Finally, others were spitting out words of spite and jealousy that Asagi had asked for him. Swallowing nervously, he broke away from the crowd and made his way over towards the almighty Taimanin, with a disgruntled and grumbling Iruka following close behind, though Naruto caught something that sounded like "What is she thinking?" from the scarred chunin. After a few moments, Naruto found himself standing in front of the legendary Taimanin herself. Somehow she seemed even more beautiful up close, and the blonde felt his heartbeat faster before dropping into his stomach. Hello. He managed to speak out, just barely, which earned a small giggle from the Taimanin. My reputation precedes me, as usual. No need to be nervous. I won't bite. I just want to talk. You're Naruto Uzumaki, am I correct? She asked for confirmation, trying her best to help him relax. This certainly wasn't the first time a potential candidate became a gibbering mess while in her presence. She supposed that great beauty and fame had that effect on people. That's right. Naruto Uzumaki, at your service. Is there something I can do for you? He asked politely, his voice quickly recovering, as he tried to rein in and contain his nervousness. The brunette ran a hand through her hair, and then crossed her arms beneath her impressive bust. I just want to ask you some questions, maybe ask you to perform a simple task or two for me. First question, how old are you, and why do you want to be a shinobi? She asked, as though she were conducting an interview, her eyes staring deeply into him, as she seemed to be observing his every move, action, and reaction. The blonde pursed his lips in thought. It felt as though she were testing him somehow, perhaps trying to get a read on him and his personality. He decided it would be best to just answer her honestly, and replied 15 Asagi-san, and to get stronger. At that, she raised an eyebrow. Many students would say something like fame, and fortune or some other shallow response. This one was different. To what end? Why do you want to get stronger? She asked in a slightly more stern tone, which made the whisker teen flinch a bit, whether he said something that upset her, or what he said caught her interest. He hoped it was the latter. Either way, she was definitely taking this seriously. Different reasons. To protect myself, to protect others that can't defend themselves, to protect those I care or may care about in the future. That kind of stuff. He answered in a sincere voice, then he noticed it for only a brief moment, but he definitely saw Asagi smile for a split second, before she must have caught herself, and returned to a stern and serious face. Are you willing to commit? Being married to a Taimanin isn't a cakewalk. I will expect a lot out of you, and I will not tolerate laziness and half-efforts. She spoke, her eyes boring into the blonde, as he felt, as if she were trying to peer into his very soul, scanning him for even the slightest hint of dishonesty. I am, and if you don't believe me, I'd be willing to prove myself to you, Asagi-san. He spoke in a tone of determination. At his response, Asagi smiled softly, as she accepted his response, finding herself pleased with how he responded. He was honest, sincere, and wanted to defend others. Yes, he was an ideal candidate for her. I have, but one final request for you. I need to perform a small test of your chakra reserves. Asagi spoke, and then pulled a small handheld device from seemingly thin air. It was a fist-sized device with a finger-shaped indentation in the center, and a small monitor on it as well. Asagi then explained, "This is a special device we use to measure the chakra levels of our potential partners. Please place your finger inside, and channel some chakra inside. It'll then calculate your chakra levels accordingly." The Uzumaki nodded in understanding since that made sense. A Taimanin would need someone who could provide plenty of chakra for them. He obeyed her instructions, and placed his finger in the appropriate slot, and channeled a small amount of chakra inside. The device came to life with a loud series of beeps, and various numbers started flashing before Asagi's eyes. When the blonde had removed his finger, the Taimanin was surprised to see that the numbers were climbing higher and higher. Her eyes started to widen, as there appeared to be no signs of the numbers stopping, until at last an error message flashed a few times before the chakra measurement device grew hot, and then exploded in the palm of her hand, and burst into flames, causing her to instantly drop it. As she recoiled in shock with Naruto standing there equally surprised with an expression that screamed "What the hell?" Upon seeing this sight, Iruka suddenly leapt forward, and shouted at Naruto. "What the hell did you do? You dare try and pull a prank on a Taimanin? What are you? Stupid." At his accusation, the blonde raised up his hands in surrender, and tried to explain that it wasn't a prank, but an accident. However, the Chunin refused to hear him, and instead began chewing out the poor boy. Their words were lost to Usagi's ears, as she stared at the device, as it was still engulfed in flames. The only logical conclusion was that his chakra levels were so far off the charts, that the device was unable to process the needed information, melted down from the inside, and overloaded. Never before had she seen such a result, yet it also made a certain kind of sense, since he was the Kyuubi's container. Of course, his chakra levels wouldn't be normal or average in nature. She couldn't afford to allow such a rare prize of this nature to slip through her fingers, and she could already sense that she and him had a strong compatibility rate. He was perfect. She was broken from her musing when she heard the Chunin Iruka say, "I'm so sorry for the trouble, Asagi-san. I knew he wouldn't be a good partner for you. He wouldn't bother you ever again." The scarred Chunin then proceeded to drag away the whiskered teen, who violently struggled and thrashed around in Chunin's grip. "Boy. Ligo, you bastard. I told you that it was an accident. I didn't do anything wrong." Naruto protested angrily for being accused of something he didn't do. Iruka then glared harshly at him, red in the face, and seemed ready to use his signature big hat jutsu to shout at the boy, but was stopped when Asagi placed a hand on Iruka's wrist, which caused both the Chunin and Uzumaki to fall silent and look towards the blue net. Her face was an unreadable mask, as she stared at the Chunin, getting the silent message. He reluctantly released the whiskered teen from his grip. Meanwhile, in the background, Naruto's entire class were watching in dead silence, wondering what the famed Taimanin would do with Naruto. Most of them believed that she was about to punish him, but instead she stated loud enough for all to hear, "I'll take him." 3 words. 3 words was all it took to launch the class into complete pandemonium, as everyone could only express shock and disbelief that the most famous and powerful Taimanin in all of Konoha had chosen the dead last of all people for a partner. There couldn't possibly be a more mismatched pair if there ever was one. Almost every boy in the crowd glared at Naruto in pure hatred and jealousy that he had been picked over the rest of them, and now he was going to be married to the famed almighty Taimanin herself. He would have access to the best training, the best equipment, the best everything. Now it would all be his for the taking. Iruka was one of the few to remain silent, his face having changed from a dark crimson to a deathly white in the span of a few seconds. From the shocked and pained expression on his face, it almost appeared that he had shattered his own heart. "You what?" was the only intelligent reply that the blonde Uzumaki could mutter. He wondered if he had perhaps misheard her. However, she gave him a reassuring smile, and then bowed to one knee with her hands placed above her chest, a gesture that Taimanin performed when they had chosen their partner and were about to propose marriage. "Naruto Uzumaki, I can sense that you are kind, capable, and loyal. Traits that I find very much desirable in a partner. Will you accept Asagi Igawa as your partner in marriage?" she asked him, proposing to the blonde with an endearing and heartfelt smile. Naruto swallowed a lump in his throat, a large part of him still doubting his ears. However, this was happening. The Taimanin was proposing marriage to him. She wanted him as her partner. How in the hell could he refuse? "I do," was the only response he could give, since he didn't trust his own voice at the moment. Asagi then smiled even wider, her eyes gleaming, as she nodded in gratitude. "From this day forward we are partners, and are henceforth married. Under my care, I shall protect you with my life, and ensure that you will want for nothing." Asagi spoke, and then she approached the blonde, and planted her lips to his own. His eyes widened, as he felt the softness and warmth of her lips against his own. Never in his life would he imagine that he'd have his first kiss with the famed almighty Taimanin in his life. After a few moments, she broke off the kiss, and said, "Our marriage contract is now sealed with our kiss. I look forward to working with, living with, and training with you from today on." In her words, Naruto felt joy, and ecstasy filled his heart at the prospect of bonding with, and getting to know Asagi. Not only that, but he could now leave behind the academy, since being chosen by a Taimanin was an automatic ticket for graduation. As of now, he was a legal shinobi. No? Asagi-san. Don't do this. That little brat isn't worthy of being your partner. He's the worst student in the entire academy. Sasuke shouted angrily, but was silenced when Asagi roughly clapped him on the shoulder, and squeezed around the collarbone tightly, which resulted in a crunching noise that made the Chunin let out a silent scream. She then gave a soft giggle and sickly sweet smile, as she led the Chunin away from both Naruto and the other children, as she whispered to him, "Listen here, Iruka-san. I've made my choice. Now, I've a mind to gut you right here, in front of all your students, and I wouldn't even be punished for it. However, since I don't want to potentially traumatize them, I shall restrain myself. But, if you continue to irritate me, I'll kill you, and make my apologies to the children, their parents, and the Hokage later. It's your call." Well, she didn't like to use threats or violence so casually. This man was seriously irritating her, and if he didn't shut up then she really would kill him, and be done with it instead of suffering further, and listening to that whiny voice of his. Iruka swallowed a lump in his throat, and noted that her free hand was gripping her katana rather tightly, showing that she was prepared to kill him just as she had threatened. Legally speaking, Taimanin held absolute power in Konoha, as authorized by the Hokage, due to their fighting prowess, and contributions to the village. If Asagi wanted to, she could most definitely kill him for even the most petty of reasons, or even no reason at all, and she wouldn't face any repercussions. Nod your head. Say whatever you want, Asagi-san. Thank you, Asagi-san, and walk away, a little man. You're not as important as you think you are. She spoke in a venomous tone, a clicking sound coming from her scabbard, as she began to slowly draw her blade for emphasis. Without any other choice, and with his instincts for self-preservation kicking in, Iruka rapidly nodded his head, and squeaked out, "Whatever you want, Asagi-san." "Thank you, Asagi-san." The Taimanin gave a satisfied smirk, and released the Chunin, allowing him to walk away, and almost break out into a run, as he tried to distance himself from her. Asagi sighed, and approached Naruto, and said, "Naruto, you come with me. You're done with this place. We'll swing by your apartment to get your personal belongings, then you're coming with me to my home." "Nah, that's okay. I don't really have any personal belongings anyway, though I guess I should pick up my clothes." Naruto added the last part, as an afterthought, which caused the almighty Taimanin to shake her head negatively. "No need. If it is the clothes you need, I'll buy you some later. If there's nothing you wish to collect from your home, then we can just go straight to mine then. Follow me, Naruto-kun. It is important for a Taimanin and their partner to bond, and get to know each other, as quickly as possible." Asagi spoke, prompting her new partner to nod in agreement. "Thanks, Asagi-san. You're really nice. No wonder you're so popular." Naruto spoke, his words making her blush a bit. Most people often complimented her for her beauty or battle prowess. Not many would compliment her for simply being nice. Oh yes, she was going to like Naruto a lot. As they left the academy grounds, other Taimanin who were scouting for partners saw them leaving together, and shouted their congratulations to both Naruto and Asagi. Meanwhile, almost everyone else was glaring at the Uzumaki in jealousy. As they walked through the village streets, many people looked at Asagi in awe and admiration, and occasionally lust, but then they noticed who she was walking with, and then would engage in frantic whispering, as they gossiped of this new development. Every so often, a photographer would peek out from around a corner or from an alleyway, to catch a snapshot of the duo, which made Naruto's sweat drop, as though word was gonna get around very fast that he and Asagi were now partners. No surprise given his own infamy amongst the village's populace, and Asagi's own popularity. As they walked, the number of people became fewer and fewer as they approached the Taimanin district. If he remembered correctly, as the Taimanin grew larger and larger in number, and became more and more famous and popular, they began experiencing harassment from overeager fans and nosy reporters that had started invading their privacy, preventing the Taimanin from getting any peace and privacy while at home. It was eventually proposed that the Taimanin would be segregated in their own district, where they could live securely without being bothered by the rest of the villagers. They were allowed to police themselves, and were even allowed to kill any and all intruders at their discretion. However, at the time, there came the question of where they would live. Then, unexpectedly, the Uchiha massacre happened, leaving the entire Uchiha district empty. With all but one of the Uchihas now gone, it was quickly dubbed meaningless to leave it in Sasuke's hands, since he had no need for an entire district all to himself. Thus the Uchiha district was given to the Taimanin, and redubbed as the Taimanin district. Some protested this unprecedented action, mainly those who wanted to get in Sasuke's good graces. Said protesters argued that this was a violation against the Uchiha clan, to which many, including the Hokage, would quip what clan. It's just one boy now. From what Naruto had heard about the Taimanin district, they all lived in the lap of luxury in homes designed specifically to their tastes. Pretty vague, but it sounded like paradise in comparison to his crummy apartment that had a funny smell that consisted of mildew and rot. It wasn't much longer until they arrived at a massive wall that separated the Taimanin district from the rest of the village. The wall was specifically designed to be resistant to jutsu techniques, and had certain seals placed upon it that prevented shinobi from climbing over with the help of chakra. Supposedly said seals were implemented when a certain pervert kept on trying to break into their homes, but repeatedly escaped capture. There were also numerous signs planted across the wall that read, "As go away," or trespassers will be killed on sight, or even perverts will be castrated with extreme prejudice. Understandably, the Taimanin were very serious about keeping intruders out, since they valued their privacy. Naruto then turned his attention to a large gate where an orange-haired Taimanin with large breasts stood guard carrying a large weapon that resembled a bazooka. She was smoking a cigarette, and observed both Asagi and the Uzumaki approaching before speaking. "Yo, Asagi. Nice to see you. Who's this? You finally got married." At this, the almighty Taimanin nodded, and replied, "Indeed. This is my partner, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto meets Mecha Kamimura. She frequently guards the district walls and gates. Anyone who tries to get in without one of our members' permission gets blasted by her flames. We'll make arrangements so that you'll have a passport so that you can enter and leave without issue. Nice to meet you, Mecha-san. Naruto greeted politely, though inwardly was thinking seriously. Do you need a passport to get in and out of their district? Then again, I guess that's just another precaution. Asagi then produced a passport from seemingly thin air and presented it to the orange-haired woman, who inspected the passport carefully for any signs of forgery. She then nodded and said, "Okay. Check out. Go on in. You enjoy Naruto. See you around." Mecha then snapped her fingers, and in response the gates started to open, allowing the new couple to enter inside. As they walked through the gates, Mecha then suddenly called out from behind them, "Hey Asagi, you bagged yourself a cute one. I'm kinda jelly." This earned a small laugh from the brunette, who waved Mecha off as they continued on towards her home. As they walked through the Taimanin district, the Uzumaki saw many of their homes, many of which were of unique designs. Some preferred Western styles, others Eastern styles. Some had visible swimming pools, others had private gardens, each home obviously unique to their owners. They would sometimes pass by a Taimanin who would happily wave to Asagi, then take notice of Naruto, and offer their congratulations before moving on. Now that he thought about it, Asagi was also labeled as the unofficial but undisputed leader of the Taimanin themselves, which granted her even greater influence in the village. After a few more minutes of walking, they arrived at an Eastern-style home that had an elegant stone garden that could be outside, as well as a private dojo for training. Come to think of it, if Naruto's memory served him correctly, this exact spot used to be where the Uchiha compound used to be, the home of the clan head Fugaku, and his family, Sasuke included. A little ironic if you asked him, or perhaps a form of poetic justice, since the blonde didn't have many good memories of when the Uchihas were around, though he did have some nice memories of Itachi, who treated him with decency, and his mother Mikoto, who was also nice to him on the few occasions they met. A shame that Mikoto died. Maybe if she had lived, Sasuke wouldn't have been such an asshole. Ah well, no point in speculation. Everything okay with Naruto-kun? Asagi asked, as she unlocked the front door of her home, which prompted the whiskered teen to reply, "I'm fine. Was just thinking about something. Don't worry about it." She accepted his answer, and then ushered him inside of her home. At the entryway, Naruto removed his shinobi sandals, with the brunette removing her own footwear, as they entered deeper inside. "Make yourself at home, feel free to look around. My home is now your home." Asagi spoke, and then made a sweeping gesture, as if to say he had free reign of the place now. The blonde accepted her invitation, and began looking around to familiarize himself with his new surroundings. The first place he took notice of was the kitchen, which was equipped with the latest, most advanced, and most expensive appliances available. He took a peek inside the oven, and concluded that it was gas-powered. A lot of things in here must be powered by gas, including the heat and water. He then looked inside the refrigerator, and found it to be fully stocked, filled to the brim with fresh vegetables, and meats of all sorts. One could probably cook damn near anything within reason with all of these ingredients. There's more ingredients in the pantry. You can also find spices, and the like in there too. Fresh groceries are delivered weekly, and trash is taken on the weekends. Don't forget to properly separate trash from recyclables. Asagi explained, earning a nod from the blonde, as he shut the fridge, and continued exploring Asagi's home. The next area he encountered was the living room, where plush leather couches could be seen, facing toward an enormous flat-screen TV that hung off the wall. Beneath it were shelves of numerous movies that Asagi owned, all neatly arranged alphabetically, and by series, and amongst them was Princess Gale. Naruto asked upon seeing one of his favorite movie series amidst her collection. "Oh? Are you a fan? I always liked that series. I admit I might have even drawn some inspiration for certain techniques from them." Asagi explained with a small smile. It would seem that she and Naruto also had similar tastes as well, which was further proof of their compatibility. "Yup. Always loved those movies. I'm eager for the next one to come out." Naruto spoke with a smile. "I am, as well. she replied warmly, as the blonde continued perusing around, and then he noticed an electronic device that was connected to the TV via cable. He has seen such things advertised on TV, and occasionally seen them in the windows of certain stores. If he remembered correctly, this was a console for playing video games, and sitting next to the console was a box labeled Taimanin Action, which featured Asagi and some other Taimanin on the cover. Wait, what? You have your own video game too? Naruto shouted in surprise since he had never heard of a Taimanin-themed game. Oh, that. A certain game company requested to use our likenesses and consulted us about its development and how to accurately depict us. Not my usual thing, but I didn't see the harm in it. It's not yet available to the general public, but feel free to play it if you want. My sister Sakura loves video games. I think you like her. She's off on a mission right now, but should be back in a few days. Asagi explained, earning an excited look from her new partner. He had never played a video game before, such things were far too expensive for him due to his limited stipend. He certainly wouldn't mind giving it a try later. Bedroom and bath are upstairs. You already saw the dojo outside. We'll see about getting you some new clothes tomorrow. Now then, sit down. Take a load off. Let's get to know each other. Asagi spoke, as she sat down on the couch with the blonde joining her at a request. He had heard many stories about her, and saw her on TV often, but he didn't really know that much about her personally. Tell me a little about yourself, Naruto-kun. What kind of foods do you like? What was it like in the academy? At her questions, the Uzumaki frowned a bit at the mention of the academy, then answered, ramen's my favorite food, though I also like a good pizza. As for the academy, well, it was hell for me. Asagi pursed her lips, as she crossed one leg over the other, and said that Iruka seemed to have it out for you for some reason. How bad was it really? Oh, sorry, if the subject is too sensitive, you don't need to answer. Jinchuriki shook his head, and replied, nah. It's fine. It was always tough for me in the academy. Some students often bullied me, teased me or called me names, and I couldn't do anything about it, because then I'd just get into deeper trouble. I failed 2 graduation exams, which resulted in me being called the dead last, a nickname that bastard Iruka encouraged. What a prick. I'm pretty sure he kept on pairing me with Sasuke, just so the precious rookie of the year would be able to make use of his punching bag. That's awful. I am so sorry you went through all of that. Iruka, and many others repeatedly suggested to me, and introduced me to Sasuke Uchiha at every given opportunity. Never before had I met such an ungrateful, spoiled, and entitled little brat who thought he owed everything because of his pedigree. Asagi spoke in a disgruntled voice, but at least now she didn't have to worry so much about it, now that she finally had a partner. Doesn't surprise me. I think that everyone just wants to get in on Sasuke's good side so they can get his money. I'm more than certain that his army of fangirls are probably encouraged and egged on by their parents to hook up with him for his money. Naruto spoke, as he clasped his hands behind his head with a sigh, grateful to be finally free of that particular headache. Is he aware of this? Asagi questioned if he was aware, then it seemed strange that the Uchiha hadn't done anything to discourage people from trying to cozy up to him. I doubt he even cares. Even if he does know, he probably either enjoys the attention or believes that his money just gives him power over others or something like that. Now can we please talk about something else? Just talking about that douchebag is starting to upset me. Naruto practically pleaded at the end, earning an apologetic expression from the brunette. I'm sorry. I got off track. Why don't you try asking me a question then? I'm an open book for you, Naruto-kun. She offered, which made the blonde think for a second before he asked her. Sure, I've got one. Out of all the people you could have picked, would you pick me? You could have chosen anyone you wanted, but you picked me, the dead last of the academy. Why? She was caught off guard for a brief moment since she hadn't expected him to ask that one point blank, but she supposed that she should have seen it coming, since this must all still be a shock to him. The reality of his new situation probably hadn't sunk in yet either. She sighed, and then started to answer his question, as best she could. Well, I have been trying to find a viable partner for years now. Unfortunately, my own fame and popularity made it difficult to find a good partner. Many wished to join me, hoping to coast off my fame and fortune, or simply desired me for my body. There were a few occasions that I'd almost chosen poorly, but thanks to the help of my sister and friends I was able to avoid making poor decisions. From the first moment I sensed you, I felt that you were different than many I had previously encountered, especially when I took notice when that Iruka fellow tried repeatedly to discourage me from speaking with or even considering you for marriage. I am also aware of your unique status in the village, as well, yet despite your upbringing, you retained a strong sense of loyalty, kindness, and justice, traits that I admire very much. When she had finished speaking, the blonde smiled and nodded as he spoke. I'm glad. It means a lot to hear you say all that. I guess even being famous and gorgeous has its drawbacks. At any rate, I'll do my best to support you, as your partner Asagi-san. Please. You can call me Asagi-chan if you wish. We must become comfortable and familiar with each other if we're to be proper partners. She spoke with a soft smile, which Naruto returned, as he blushed a bit while rubbing the back of his head. It felt a bit strange to refer to her in such a casual and affectionate manner. Then again, she had already started referring to him as Kun, so he supposed that he should respond in kind. Okay, sure Sagi-chan. By the way, if I'm to be your partner, when do we start training? I'm also supposed to give you chakra, right? How do I do that? Is there some kind of special Taimanin related technique I should know about? He asked at the end out of innocent curiosity. Also, it actually felt nice to call her Sagi-chan. It almost rolled off the tongue for him, as a matter of fact. Rather surprising really. The almighty Taimanin blushed a bit, a slight look of discomfort on her face before she smiled, and replied, now, you only just got here. We can worry about that a little later after you've settled in. At her words, the Uzumaki nodded in agreement since that made sense. He was kin to jumping the gun a bit there anyway, however he couldn't help but notice that it appeared as if she was avoiding his question. Why? Was it something embarrassing or was it simply a touchy subject? If that was the case, he wouldn't pry about it. He was sure that she would explain it to him in her own time. By the way, what are you supposed to be wearing? She asked out of nowhere, and gestured to his orange jumpsuit before continuing. It is making my eyes hurt just looking at it. The whisker teen sweat dropped and asked, why does nobody like my outfit? What's wrong with orange? It was also from a bargain bin sale, so it was really cheap too. He added that last part with 9 tears. Due to his stipend, he was very limited on what he could or couldn't buy. Thus he was always on the lookout for cheap deals. Too much orange. Way too much orange. It's hideous and gaudy. We need to find you something more suitable later, and then we can burn that hideous thing. Just looking at it is giving me an urge to chop it up. Asagi grumbled, as she started to draw her blade without even realizing it. Don't chop me up. Naruto cried out in fear since he was still wearing it, which seemed to cause Asagi's senses to return, as she sheathed her blade while mumbling an apology, a light dusting of pink on her cheeks from the slightly embarrassing display. She then giggled a bit, which made the blonde laugh in turn, since it was a little funny. The almighty Taimanin then proposed, what say we watch a little TV, as we talk? We might find something interesting at this time, I think. At this, the Uzumaki nodded in agreement. Since she had just brought it up, he was kinda wondering how crisp and clear the picture would be when it came on. His old TV was all grainy and glitchy back home to the point that it was almost unwatchable, so it would be nice to finally get a clear picture. Asagi reached for the remote and pushed the small red button at the top, causing the TV to come to life. The speakers suddenly came to life as well, and the picture revealed what appeared to be a news report with the words breaking news flying across the screen, which then showed several photos of himself and Asagi walking together through the village streets and entering through the Taimanin district's gates. A news anchor then appeared sitting behind a desk and then spoke. According to numerous eyewitnesses and photographic evidence, the famed Taimanin Asagi Igawa has made a highly controversial decision in choosing one Naruto Uzumaki as her partner. Naruto is infamously known for his many pranks and his lackluster performance in the academy. Many were of the mind that Sasuke Uchiha would be her chosen partner, due to his natural strength, talent, and skills that earned him the top spot in the academy. Sadly, it seems that this powerful combination of the Uchiha elite and the almighty Taimanin was not to be. We now live at the Konoha Academy itself, where witnesses of Asagi's marriage proposal were observed. Once the anchor was done speaking, both Asagi and Naruto looked at each other with expressions of surprise. While they initially figured that word would get out about them now being partners, they didn't expect it to happen this fast. Then again, given their respective reputations, and that they lived in a shinobi village, it shouldn't be that huge of a surprise how quickly word had spread. They turned their attention back to the television screen, where the face of one Ino Yumenka could be seen with a look of surprise, as several microphones were almost shoved in her face. Wow, you guys got here super fast. Do you guys have shinobi training or something? Ino asked out of curiosity, earning some chuckles from the reporters. You're a classmate of Naruto Uzumaki. Do you have any comment about him being partnered with Asagi Igawa? Asked one of the reporters while the sounds of scribbling could be heard. Apparently they were already or getting ready to take notes. Well, I'm kinda happy for him, I guess. He's always had a hard time in the academy, so I think he needed a leg up to succeed. The blonde heiress responded with a small smile. Word has it that Naruto is a troublemaker. Care to comment on that? Why do you think Asagi picked him over Sasuke? Another reporter questioned while pushing a microphone closer to Ino's face that made her scowl in annoyance. Seriously, did reporters and paparazzi not understand the concept of personal space? It's true that Naruto's a prankster, but he's not a bad guy. He's actually pretty nice when you get to know him. I don't know why she picked him, but I guess she saw something in him beyond his subpar grades. I mean, Taimanin aren't just looking for strength in their partners, right? Otherwise they'd probably be pairing with Anbu or Jonin. Maybe they're looking for something more. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's how I feel about it. Ino explained, while the sounds of furious scribbling could be heard. He said that Naruto has been struggling in the academy. Could you please expand on that? A third reporter asked. Well, from what I know and have seen, Naruto always has difficulty in performing certain jutsu, most prominently the academy taught clone jutsu, that's needed to pass the graduation exam. I have even seen and heard him ask Iruka-sensei for help, but he always turns Naruto away. She answered, causing the reporters to explode into a jabbering mess, as the camera panned away from Ino, and then focused on the form of the scarred Chunin himself a short distance away. Oh, this is gonna be good. Naruto commented with sadistic glee, wanting to see the Chunin humiliate himself on live television, and even better, prove just how bad of a teacher he was to the whole village. The reporters then swarmed the Chunin, as they shoved their microphones into his face, making him recoil backwards, as he was bombarded with questions. Most prominently is it true you refused to help a student struggling to pass the academy's graduation exam? At that particular question, the scarred Chunin scoffed, as he straightened his vest and headband before replying with a fake smile, of course not. I don't know where you got that idea from. I always told him that he needed to keep practicing, but it seems he never bothered to take my advice. It's not my fault he is a bad student. That fucking liar. He never gave me any advice at all. What a poser. Naruto muttered angrily, as he flipped the bird towards the TV screen, or more specifically at the Chunin himself. All the while Asagi frowned deeply at Iruka's behavior. The reporters could be heard scribbling more notes before one pointed out that Naruto Uzumaki has been in your class since his very first day at the academy. Yes. If he is such a bad student, as you claim, why didn't you or your partner make attempts to push him towards being a better student? Why hasn't he been able to master the clone during his tenure in his class? At that line of questioning, Iruka's facial expression almost instantly changed, as his face paled, sweat started to form on his skin, and his face became all scrunched up, like he was trying to keep himself from losing control of his bowels in that moment, and his eyes wouldn't stop looking around, as if he were trying to find some kind of exit to run to. Are you neglecting all of your students or just the ones you don't like? One reporter asked. There have been long-standing rumors that certain officials are bribing others to give preferential treatment to Sasuke Uchiha. Are academy teachers like yourself involved? Another asked. What do you have to say for yourself? Are you corrupt? Why hasn't Naruto Uzumaki improved under your tutelage? What are you even teaching in your class? Are the children being properly prepared for their shinobi careers? Is the future generation of Konoha's military compromise? Another reporter asked in a rapid-fire manner. Iruka's face started to grow red, as the pressure mounted on him, which seemed to increase further, since they had him backed into a corner. Growing irritated with their line of questioning, and wanting them to be silent, Iruka perhaps made the worst mistake of his life. Shut up. All of you. Leave me alone. Iruka lashed out, then stormed off, trying to retreat from the reporters before they could question him further. Not that they needed to, his reaction was all that they needed. Suffice it to say, Iruka was definitely gonna answer for that later. As this went on, Naruto's stomach grumbled, which made Asagi giggle a bit, as she turned off the TV, and then spoke. Seems like someone's hungry. Food sounds like a good idea right about now. How does steak sound? Would you like to try some filet mignon? She got up from the couch, and made her way towards the kitchen, where she retrieved a large cookbook loaded with numerous recipes, and then flipped over towards the appropriate section. The Uzumaki swallowed, as his mouth salivated at the thought of a good meal. Never had steak before. He commented since it was yet another thing he had never been able to try, again due to a limited budget, and filet mignon. If he remembered, that was the most expensive cut of all. Wow, he had just gone from living in a slum, to living like a damned king. No? Never. Well, I think it's time to fix that. I think I'll wrap it up in a nice layer of bacon. She spoke with a smile while tracing her finger along the page of a certain recipe, and then began to collect the necessary ingredients from the fridge and pantry, along with a variety of spices. Now I need a side dish to serve it with. Naruto-kun. Would you prefer baked potato or French fries? She asked with a kind smile, her words only making the blonde's mouth water further, until drool could be seen leaking from the corner of his mouth, which he quickly caught and wiped away. The latter, if that's fine. Also, you seem to know your way around a kitchen. Naruto commented, at the end to which Asagi giggled slightly. I love to cook, it's something of a hobby of mine. Also, it is a good skill to have when one is traveling about on the road. She explained, with the blonde nodding in understanding. While he was no stranger to a kitchen, he often had little room to experiment due to limited ingredients and tools, and again, a limited budget. Please, Naruto-kun. Sit down, relax. There's no need for formalities. This is your home now. I want you to feel welcome. As I promised you earlier, you won't want anything. Also, if anyone dares try to intimidate you into leaving me, don't hesitate to speak with me about it. I won't allow anyone to even think of trying to bully you. She promised him with a sweet smile, which almost brought a tear to the Jinchuriki's eye, as he took a seat, as he observed Asagi preparing their meal. No longer was he alone in an old and decaying apartment, he now had the chance for a new life, and a fresh start by Asagi's side, as her partner. He had only known her a short time, and she was already treating him with such care and kindness. He could only hope that he could live up to whatever expectations she may have for him. Starting today, a new chapter in his life was about to begin. Kami, that dinner was good. Asagi sure can cook. Naruto muttered to himself as he stood beneath the shower head, allowing the warm water to wash over his body as he mused over his new situation. He never imagined that a proper shower could feel this nice, since his apartment had pretty questionable water pressure, and it took seemingly ages for the water to warm up to an appropriate temperature. In Asagi's shower though, the water heated up very quickly, and the liquid hitting him almost felt like a massage in a way. He kinda chuckled at how a simple everyday thing was bringing him so much pleasure. Maybe it was because he felt like he could actually enjoy it now. To think, just a few hours ago he was slumming around in a rotting and decrepit apartment. Now he had been invited into the home of the legendary Taimanin Asagi. A tiny piece of him kind of wondered if perhaps this was all a dream, perhaps because the reality of the situation hadn't fully sunk in yet. He sighed as he lathered his hair up with some minty-smelling shampoo. It seemed like Asagi also had similar tastes in shampoo and body wash like himself. Nothing fancy, but will definitely get the job done, which is all he cared about. Everything is all right there. The voice of the famed Taimanin called out through a very slight opening in the bathroom door. Yeah. Sorry. Am I taking too long? I was just enjoying your shower, I guess. He spoke sheepishly, feeling a little guilty if he was hugging the bathroom in the event that she wanted to use it for herself. Take your time. Don't forget that we have several errands to do tomorrow. Since you're now my partner, we need to get you registered for your shinobi license, and get you a passport so you may freely come and go out of the Taimanin district. Oh, and we also need to get you some new clothes. She stated in a kindly manner, giving him a gentle reminder of the tasks they needed to perform. Things were happening pretty fast now, not that he was complaining. After a few more minutes in the shower, he shut off the water and exited, finding a bathrobe, and his boxers, which had been recently washed by Asagi, were waiting for him. He slipped on his underwear and put on the robe, admiring the softness of the fabric. He exited the bathroom and found Asagi casually lounging on her bed wearing an almost see-through nightie with lace underwear, a book in one hand, and a glass of wine resting next to her on the nightstand. The sight made him blush a bit since he wasn't expecting to see her in that state of dress. He supposed that it would be a regular occurrence, and he'd have to get used to it, not that he minded. It made for a very pleasant sight after all. She glanced up at him and smiled warmly as she said, "Have a seat, Naruto-kun. You can turn on the TV if you want." She then gestured to the bedroom TV hanging off the wall and patted the space next to her. While the offer was appreciated, he was pretty sure all the channels were still talking about him and a doggy. That aside, he felt pretty tired anyway. He chuckled a little nervously as he accepted the invitation and slipped into the bed with her. He felt rather bashful since he wasn't used to living with another person, least of all a woman. Not to mention there was the fact that Asagi insisted that they slept in the same bed together so that they may continue to bond and grow closer. Something wrong? You seem a little stiff. The almighty Taimanin asked with a little smirk. Sorry. This is all kind of new, I guess. He answered honestly, earning a nod of understanding from the brunette. Don't worry. I promise to take good care of you. If you ever feel uncomfortable or need to set boundaries, please tell me. I won't force you into anything you don't want to do. She spoke soothingly and gently cupped his cheek with her free hand while touching her forehead to his. The affectionate gesture made Jinchuriki tense up a bit before relaxing. He inhaled deeply, taking in her scent of Kami. Asagi smelled so good. Her skin felt soft and smooth, and her touch was warm and gentle. He felt a strong urge to snuggle up to her and melt into her embrace. Almost as if sensing this, she set her book aside and pulled him close until their bodies were pressed together, her soft, as she gently massaged his scalp while she sang softly, "If I had words to make a day for you, I'd sing you a morning golden and new. I would make this day last for all time. Give you a night deep in moonshine." As she sang, the blonde felt himself relaxing against her, his eyes growing steadily more and more heavy as sleep slowly took hold of him. Between the comforting feel of her body and the softness of the luxurious memory foam mattress, he felt himself almost drifting away until finally he blissfully fell into a deep sleep. Asagi smiled and placed a tender kiss atop his forehead, knowing that the excitement and the day's events must have tuckered him out. He was such a sweetheart and a little shy too. She was definitely going to enjoy having him as her partner. She wasn't sure why, but there was something about him that made her heart soar, and she wanted nothing more than to make him happy. She had attempted other relationships in the past for potential partners, but none of them made her heart flutter in the way that Naruto did, and they had only known each other for less than a day. Oh yes, she was very much looking forward to deepening her bond with him. Asagi turned off the lights, and then pulled the covers over their bodies, snuggling close to the blonde, as subconsciously wrapped his arms around her. How cute. He liked to cuddle. She smiled, as she rested her head against her pillow, and whispered, "Good night, Naruto-kun." The next morning, Naruto yawned as he stirred awake, his eyes fluttering open, as he found himself cuddling with the still sleeping form of the famed Taimanin, their legs tangled together, as she gave off a very light and barely audible snoring. Her face seemed so peaceful, as she slept soundly. Honestly speaking, he felt so comfortable right now, he didn't really want to get up, but he kind of felt nature's calling much to his annoyance, which meant he was going to be forced to leave the bed. He sighed to himself, and tried to pull away, only to find that Asagi was still holding him rather tightly. He feared that if he pulled away too hard, that it would wake her up, but at the same time he really had to go. He muttered an apology, and slowly pushed against her to try and find some leverage, and, as expected, her eyes opened, as she woke up. "Good morning. Sleep well." He nodded at her question, and replied, "Sure did. Sorry that I woke you, but I kinda gotta go." He muttered the last part in embarrassment, which made her give an ah of understanding, and released him. As he got off the bed, she noticed something of very large bulge in his boxers. "Big," she whispered to herself, but it was still audible enough for the Uzumaki to hear. As he wondered what she was talking about, he then followed her gaze downward, and realized that she was eyeing his morning erection. He flushed a deep scarlet in embarrassment, and quickly retreated into the bathroom while shouting, "I'm so sorry." There was an unintended slam of a door, as Asagi mused to herself, wondering exactly how large his manhood was. While she couldn't figure on an exact measurement, there was no room for doubt that he was definitely above average. She then bit her lip upon realizing that he was probably beside himself with embarrassment or shame. It would be best to wait for a bit before speaking to him about it, especially since intimacy would soon become part of their daily life. That aside, there were other things that had to be checked off for today. Though for some reason Asagi suddenly got a feeling that today may yet be a massive headache. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed, as he rubbed his temples. Sitting across from him was none other than Iruka Yamino, who seemed like he wanted to vanish out of existence, especially since there was a little television sitting atop the Sandame's desk, which was replaying the footage of the scarred Chunin snapping at the reporters that were there that day. "I cannot begin to express how your outburst is an embarrassment, Iruka. Since the footage aired, I have been bombarded with questions and complaints about the quality of the Academy's teachers and the curriculum. People are even asking questions about preferential treatment of certain students, especially Sasuke." The Hokage spoke in a grave tone, as he glared at the Academy teacher. "That has nothing to do with me. I never gave special treatment to him." Iruka blurted out defensively while holding up his hands in a placating manner, the gesture seemingly only angering the Hokage further. "Perhaps not, but you did single out Naruto-kun. Don't deny it. After that little news report, I did some checking. I already questioned several of your students, and they all told me the same things. You coined the title of dead last for him. You frequently paired him against Sasuke Uchiha in class spars, and, as young Ino Yamanaka clearly stated, whenever he came to you for help you would deny him. Either I'm going senile, or perhaps you wanted to keep Naruto a prisoner in your class or something of that nature." Hiruzen spoke in an increasingly dark tone of voice. Before the Chunin could say anything, the Sandame continued, "The Academy is one of, if not the absolute most important building in the village. The next generation of shinobi are trained there. Future Anbu, Jonin, perhaps even a future Hokage. You had one job. One. To teach, train, and nurture your students. Not only are you persecuting Naruto due to a personal grudge, you are not properly teaching discipline in your students. Do I need to explain how practically rabid fangirls can be a problem? Are you that incompetent at your job?" The Hokage shouted with rising anger in his voice. Sandame realized that he had been too lenient with the Academy teachers by giving them minimal oversight. While he didn't wish to constantly peek over their shoulders, he now realized that giving them too much leeway offered them opportunities to cut corners. This was unacceptable. There was a rapid knocking at the door, catching the attention of the Sandame since it sounded urgent, which in turn allowed Iruka to breathe a sigh of relief. "This isn't over, Iruka. Come in." He shouted the last part towards the door, allowing the person knocking entry into his office. The door was shoved open, as an orange blur appeared with a female figure slapping her palms down on the Sandame's desk, with enough force to make the wood splinter and crack. "What happened? What happened to my sister? Where's my Wani-chan?" shouted the form of Igawa Sakura, Asagi's younger sister. "Wa Sakura-san? What are you doing back so soon? You weren't scheduled to return for another few days." The Hokage questioned since the tomboy Taimanin was supposed to be on a scouting mission to investigate a certain shipping tycoon. "Eh? You sent me this urgent summons?" She replied in clear confusion, as she produced a rather official-looking document, signed and stamped with the Hokage's signature and seal. The document gave orders to her to return to Konoha immediately due to an incident involving her sister. Not that I don't appreciate you responding so promptly, but I never sent this to you," Hiruzen muttered, as he pushed the summons aside, as both he and Sakura exchanged confused looks with one another. "Wait, if you didn't call me back then who the hell did?" she questioned with a raised eyebrow. She didn't like being played for a fool, and she especially didn't like that someone may have led her on with false worry about her elder sister. "I did," spoke an aged voice, as the form of one Hamura Mitakato entered inside the office. Hiruzen glowered at his teammate, and said, "I never gave you permission, much less the authority to act on my behalf in such a manner, Hamura. I only acted in the best interests of the village, Hiruzen. You should know that by now." Hamura spoke, as he smoothed out his robes, his lackluster response making the Sandaime glare at his teammate and advisor, who was clearly overstepping his boundaries. For many years, Hiruzen had relied on his teammates and old comrades for counsel, but lately it seemed that they had become too accustomed to their positions. "The hell do you want, your old fart? I ran all the way from Wave Country non-stop for this." Sakura yelled, as she snatched up the false summons, crumpled it in her fist, and then threw it at Sandaime's teammate, making the ball of paper bounce off his chest, while Hamura retained a passive expression. "It would be best that we speak in private about this, Sakura-san." "Good day, Hiruzen, Iruka." The aged counselor spoke, as he gestured for her to follow him, making her stamp her foot while puffing her cheeks, as she followed after him out of the office. The Sandaime didn't like this one little bit. It was safe to assume that this was in relation to her elder sister Asagi, choosing Naruto as her partner, a decision that was met with widespread criticism and controversy, since it was often believed she was supposed to have chosen Sasuke, almost as if their pairing was preordained or something. Hiruzen considered intervening, but decided against it, since he was certain that Asagi herself would clear up any confusion. That aside, he had more pressing concerns to worry about at this time. One of them being Iruka, and his lack of performance. "Now then, where were we, Iruka?" The Sandaime asked, as he laced his fingers together, his lips curling into a deep frown, as he watched the Chunin squirm uncomfortably. The aged Hokage was of the mind to strip both Iruka and Mizuki of their headbands, but first he was going to make them sweat for a little while. Meanwhile, Sakura was glaring at the form of Hamura, while impatiently tapping her foot, as she asked, "Okay then, old-timer. What's this all about? You better start talking before I shove one of my ninjatos so far up your wrinkled ass, the blade will wink at you every time you brush your teeth," she threatened while drawing one of her blades. "I apologize for bringing you back under such circumstances, and for the confusion, but your sister, Asagi, has chosen a partner recently. She even performed the oath in public, and in front of witnesses." He quickly and bluntly explained, his words earning a look of surprise from them. "Now you know, fair sis. I wanted to be there to see you do the oath." She muttered in a childish manner while crying some crocodile tears before putting on a happy expression, and then asked, "So who's the lucky guy? I bet that my big sis picked a real cutie pie." Regrettably, she chose one Naruto Uzumaki. The worst student in the academy's history. A troublemaker, delinquent, and a well-known pest that rides the coattails of his betters. The only reason he's interested in partnering with her is because of her wealth and status, plus he was bragging to his classmates about how he was going to get into Asagi-san's pants. "I need you to talk with your sister, and have her break things off before it is too late." Hamura spoke with a deep scowl. "No way my sister would pair up with someone that shady. Unless he must have tricked her. That bastard. I wouldn't let anyone betray my sister again." The tomboy Taimanin muttered while clenching her fist, unaware that she had been lied to. Under normal circumstances, it was considered an unspoken rule for Taimanin to stick with and be loyal to their chosen partners. A Taimanin who casually breaks things off with their partner is considered to be untrustworthy and unreliable, although this unspoken rule doesn't truly apply under certain circumstances, such as abusive relationships or for dealing with unfaithful, manipulative or gold-digging partners. While Sakura was certain that her sister could handle things on her own, Asagi was still capable of making mistakes, so, as her younger sister, it was her duty to support her big sis. Whoever this Naruto person was, if he was some little creep, he was gonna pay dearly. Elsewhere, Taimanin District. Naruto shuddered, as he suddenly got a chill, a feeling of dread overcoming him, as he began rapidly rubbing his arms with his hands. "Are you cold?" His newfound partner asked with a raised eyebrow, as she noticed his actions. "Felt like I had a foot in the grave for a second," he replied honestly, as he looked about, wondering if there was someone nearby that wished harm upon him. He then shrugged his shoulders, and then spoke, "Never mind. Must be my imagination or something, so where are we shopping anyway?" At his question, the almighty Taimanin smiled, and gestured to an oddly shaped building that was constructed in the likeness of a futuristic spaceship from a sci-fi film, with a sign hanging out front that read Prison Battleship. That was a very odd name for a store, and why the spaceship motif? "Okay, I gotta ask, why does the store look like a ship? Also, you guys have your very own store in your district?" he asked, as he tilted his head to the side, though one had to admit the place certainly stood out. For the sake of convenience. Can you imagine trying to go shopping for groceries, only to be suddenly mobbed by a swarm of fans asking for pictures and autographs or reporters following your every move? As much as I love and respect my fans, I still need some personal space and privacy. As for the design, I haven't the slightest idea why it was made to look like a spaceship. Maybe in another world or another life, the owners were spacefaring officers. Asagi answered while running a hand through her hair. He wasn't sure if that was a serious statement or a joke, but he wasn't going to judge. Not to mention, when she put it like that, it made sense for a store or stores to be placed within the Taimanin district so that they can shop in peace. Guess being rich and famous has some drawbacks. He muttered to himself as they entered inside. Upon entry, he was greeted by the sight of neatly arranged shelves, with each section being marked by a sign hanging overhead. Groceries, electronics, tools, it seemed the place had virtually anything and everything within reason. At the front of the store were a pair of women wearing white-gray uniforms in a futuristic military fashion. One woman had purple hair and teal eyes, the other had short black hair and red eyes. Naruto. Meet Rieri Bishop, the owner of this store, and her assistant Naomi Evans. Asagi spoke as she introduced the two women to her new partner. Nice to meet you ladies. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. This looks like a nice store. He spoke politely, feeling confident that he could shop here without fear of being denied service or being overcharged for goods, as many stores had done to him in the past. The two women smiled at him with Rieri saying thank you Naruto. This place is my pride and joy. Feel free to drop by anytime. Gotta say Asagi, he's a handsome one. Seems nice and polite too. She spoke the last part to the almighty Taimanin, earning a small blush from the Jinchuriki. Are you two Taimanin as well? The whiskered teen asked, earning a pair of negative shakes of the head from the store attendants. No. We never underwent the procedure, but we are more than capable of handling ourselves in a pinch. Our main jobs are to provide the Taimanin with anything and everything they need, no matter how unrealistic or absurd the request is. If a Taimanin and or their partner want or need something, we get it for them. Naomi replied with a proud smirk as she crossed her arms beneath her bust. At that, the Uzumaki raised an eyebrow and decided to test them by asking what if I wanted a tank like from one of those war movies. We can definitely get you a tank. We have an entire catalog to choose from. Ammunition and fuel is included. Rieri answered bluntly without skipping a beat, almost as if a young teen asking for a tank was perfectly normal. Wow, they were really committed to their jobs. This definitely wasn't an ordinary store, but since it did directly serve and cater to the Taimanin, then being ordinary certainly wouldn't have cut it. Why would you want a tank? Asagi asked with a raised eyebrow, which prompted her partner to reply in a deadpan tone to drive around in and blow stuff up with. What the hell else are you supposed to do with a tank? He asked at the end, as if it were the most simple thing in the world. What would you want to blow up? She asked for clarification, only to earn a cheeky grin from the Uzumaki, as he replied, I've got a few ideas. H sounded like it would not be a good idea to let him have a tank. At least not until she knew he would use it and handle it in a responsible manner. Don't let him have a tank unless I say so. She ordered the store owners, prompting them both to nod in understanding. While the blonde was a tad disappointed, he simply shrugged his shoulders, since he didn't really need a tank at this time, though it still would have been pretty fun. Now then, what can we do for you? Please tell me it involves replacing that hideous orange abomination. Rieri asked, as she glared at the Uzumaki's distinctive orange jumpsuit, almost as if she wanted to set it ablaze with only her intense gaze. Why do people keep hating my clothes? Naruto muttered to himself, earning shocked gasps from the store owners. You call those clothes? I wouldn't wish those upon my worst enemy. Naomi muttered, fighting the urge to tear them off of him right then and there. Asagi then cleared her throat and said, we are here to do some shopping. Naruto-kun needs clothes for casual wear and for shinobi business. I'd also like to do a tasting for some weapons that he can try out, and we also need to issue him a passport so that he may freely come and go from the Taimanin district. Not a problem. I'll get started on his passport immediately. Naomi. See to whatever our guests require in the meantime. Rieri ordered, prompting her crimson-eyed assistant to nod and give a quick salute as the purple-haired woman disappeared into a nearby office. Come with me Naruto-san. Let's get you sorted out. We'll start with your shinobi wear. We make those custom-tailored. Naomi spoke as she guided him to a corner area where a set of mirrors were located. She pulled out a roll of measuring tape and unfurled it, followed by a clipboard and a pen from a nearby shelf, and then began taking his measurements. We'll need 8 suits. 4 for day and 4 for night. Asagi spoke as she sat herself down in a chair closely as she fingered her katana, observing her new partner with a small smile. Uzumaki said nothing, as he trusted that whatever the almighty Taimanin recommended would probably be for the best, since he had never owned a suit before, much less had one custom tailored for him. On another note, he definitely wouldn't mind the dapper appearance. He quietly listened, as Naomi and Asagi did a little back and forth with the former asking any preferences for the suits. Social setting. Italian style. 2 buttons. Tapered trousers. Tactical armored lining. Asagi listened, as if she had rehearsed those lines, with Uzumaki raising an eyebrow, since he didn't understand fashion speak. Can someone explain all of that to me? I didn't understand a word of that. He asked, hoping for a little clarification, which earned a few giggles from the ladies. Naomi answered him, as she continued jotting down his measurements with practiced ease. Social event means it can be in a casual cut, and the fabric can be slightly more lightweight, stretchy, and comfortable, rather than the more refined, but stiff cut, and fabric used for formal suits. Italian-style suits tend to be more form-fitting and have less padding compared to British and American-style suits, which, along with the more comfortable and stretchy fabric and cut, provide a larger range of motion possible. 2 buttons instead of 3 on the jacket means it still looks good if unbuttoned, making it easier to access concealed or holstered weapons. Tapered trousers, apart from the slightly more elegant air they provide even to casual suits, give a bit more room on the upper leg without looking baggy. Again, greater range of motion. She's asking for all the things that would make the suit more comfortable when running or fighting, while still looking dapper enough as to not attract attention until it's strictly necessary. The Jinchuriki blinked his eyes and gave a long drawn-out O of understanding. Yeah, that would definitely be helpful. What about the lining? He asked, which prompted Naomi to pull a pistol out of seemingly thin air and fire a few rounds at a suit that was being worn by a mannequin. He noticed that the bullets didn't penetrate through their target and instead bounced off or flattened upon impact against the suit, which prompted the crimson-eyed woman to explain cutting-edge body armor, sewn between the lining and the fabric. 0 penetration against blades and bullets. Resistant to heat. Machine washable. Only downside is that the impact will still hurt like hell. I'm surprised this stuff isn't standard issue. He muttered quietly to himself, but was still heard with the 2 women smirking. As Asagi stated, nothing comes standard to the Taimanin. Get used to the perks. Once Naomi was finished with her work, she asked, "Shall I have everything sent to your residence, Asagi-san?" Her question prompted the famed Taimanin to nod her head in confirmation. The crimson-eyed woman then guided the 2 towards an area that could be considered an armory lined with all manner of weapons. Kunai, tantos, katanas, firearms, and more. Don't often see guns in the shinobi nations. The Jinchuriki pointed out, which made the shopkeeper chuckle a bit. True. Possibly because the people of the shinobi nations are set in their ways. Though in my opinion, a well-placed bullet can be just as, if not more deadly than many forms of ninjutsu. I've yet to meet anyone who can outsmart a bullet to the brain. Also, they can make for good weapons if you need a backup plan or want to conserve chakra, since these babies don't take up any chakra. Now then, are you familiar with any forms of weapons? She asked him at the end. He hummed and thought, while firearms weren't a traditional form of shinobi weaponry, there were no specific laws or regulations that stated a shinobi couldn't use them, plus since they were so seldom seen, it would definitely take most enemies by surprise. If nothing else, it definitely wouldn't hurt to experiment a bit and find what worked for him. I don't really have much experience with weaponry, aside from my fists, and kunai, though my taijutsu could use a lot of work. He answered, as he scratched his cheek with a lone finger. Naomi simply smiled and stated that only means you're a blank slate. Therefore there's plenty for you to learn. May I suggest a Glock .34? She asked, as she offered him a pistol from off a nearby rack. He was about to accept it, but she snatched it out of his reach with a warning expression, as she spoke 4 essential rules of gun safety. 1. Respect the weapon, and treat all firearms as if they're loaded. 2. Never point a gun, loaded or unloaded, in the direction of someone you do not wish to shoot. 3. Finger off the trigger until your sights are on your target, and you have made the decision to fire. 4. Be sure of your target and what's behind it, since you don't want the bullet to tear through your target and accidentally hit an innocent bystander. Are we clear? He slowly nodded in understanding since, in many ways, guns were known to be more dangerous and far more volatile than, say, katanas or kunai, since there was the factor of gunpowder involved amongst other things. She accepted his response and gently placed the pistol in his hand, allowing him to feel the weight of the weapon as he pointed it off to the side, being sure not to point it in the direction of anyone. Textured grips to help prevent slipping. Flared magazine well for easier reload. Custom porting to prevent jamming. Naomi expertly listed off. The blonde set the weapon down on the table, minding the direction of the barrel. He cleared his throat and said, "Very nice. What about something with more range? Something precise?" He asked, feeling a bit unsure as to how to describe what he was looking for, since he had no experience with firearms. The shopkeeper simply smirked as she took a rifle off of one of the many racks and presented it to him. "I suggest an R15. The classic choice. Lightweight, semi-automatic, and full auto settings. Very widely used weapon," she explained, as the blonde held the weapon and inspected it, holding the rifle up as he looked down the sights. "What do you mean semi and full auto?" he asked. He then felt a hand on his shoulder and saw Asagi was now standing next to him. She gently maneuvered the rifle so that the stock was resting firmly against his shoulder. Always hold a rifle or shotgun against your shoulder to better absorb the recoil, otherwise it'll fly out of your hands or smack you in the face. Semi means it'll fire 1 bullet at a time with each pull of the trigger. Full means that you can hold down the trigger, and it'll keep spitting bullets until the magazine is empty. Some weapons can release short bursts of bullets as well. Like any other weapon, you have to familiarize yourself and get used to the handling of firearms. Asagi explained, earning a nod of understanding from the Uzumaki. It seemed there was a lot more to firearms than he had originally thought. Most action movies never really covered this kind of stuff. I hear shotguns are good for close quarters and enclosed spaces. Any recommendations for that? He asked since he knew that much at least, recalling that such weapons were used as trench cleaners. Or was it trench sweepers? I think an AA-12 will do the trick. Rapid fire. Drum magazine. You need to do a sweep through a building loaded with, say, triad members. This will blast through them. Naomi spoke in a rather excited manner as she placed the weapon in front of him. Like all the others, he picked it up and got a feel for it before setting it down. If I run out of bullets, I'll need a different sort of weapon. I always wanted to learn how to use a katana. Naruto spoke, his words earning a twinkle of the eye from his partner, who was very much eager to teach him the fine arts of Kenjutsu. Naomi smirked as she picked up a katana and presented to the blonde forged in Iron Country, the home of the samurai. You will find a better blade. Razor sharp, perfectly balanced, and capable of channeling chakra. You can never go wrong with a good blade, especially one directly from Iron Country. The Uzumaki accepted the blade and noticed how lightweight it was. It weighed almost nothing in his hand. As far as he was aware, the samurai jealously guarded the secrets of their forging techniques. Any blades made outside of Iron Country were almost always dubbed as inferior, save for some exceptions. Thanks. He spoke gratefully as he set the blade down, believing that he had covered his bases. With his weapons shopping done, the crimson-eyed shopkeeper directed him to another clothing area, one filled with various casual wear, most of it being made up of generic sizes and brands that could be found anywhere. Perfect for lounging around in. Can you do a rush order on his suits? I want to get him out of that orange monstrosity as soon as humanly possible. Asagi requested, earning a quick nod from Naomi. With their shopping now complete, Naomi bagged up all of Naruto's casual wear, underwear, and socks, and rang up Asagi for their purchases, promising to deliver all the suit's ammunition and weaponry directly to her home when everything was ready. The blonde's eyes nearly bugged out of his head at the total price of their purchases. Not even 20 years' worth of his monthly stipends could cover even a fraction of the cost. He felt a bit bad for Asagi having to pay for it all, but she didn't even blink an eye as she quickly signed a check. She then looked at him, and he must have been making some sort of face because she stated in a soothing voice, "Don't feel bad, Naruto-kun. Remember my promise. I promised you would want for nothing. That aside, money is of no concern to me." That made him feel a bit better, as he gave her a light smile. He then noticed Ryeri approaching them with a passport in hand, as she offered it to the Uzumaki, and spoke in a professional manner, "Your passport, Naruto-san. You can get your picture put in at the same time as your shinobi registration. Feel free to come by for all of your shopping needs." He nodded in understanding, as he accepted the passport, and bid the two shopkeepers goodbye before heading outside with Asagi. He gleefully carried his bags with him, as they made their way towards the academy, so that he may register as a shinobi. Today was just getting better and better. What could possibly go wrong? Meanwhile, Konoha Academy rooftop. Sasuke Uchiha sat alone, quietly eating his lunch in relative peace, as he bluttered to himself. He glanced down at the school grounds, noting briefly that there was a definite change of atmosphere. Even from this distance he could see his fellow classmates were abuzz with gossip. Most of it undoubtedly either pertains to the dead last getting picked by the famed Asagi Igawa, or Iruka, and Mizuki's apparent absence, since the scarred Chunin blew up at the reporters yesterday. Classes were currently being handled by a pair of substitute Chunin that the Uchiha couldn't remember the names of, not that it mattered to him. He scoffed, and took another bite of his meal, and then noticed a shadow being cast over him, as an elderly woman stood a few feet away, looking down at him. "What do you want?" the Uchiha asked rudely, wondering what the old bag wanted with him. "Sasuke Uchiha. A pleasure to meet you. My name is Kaharu Udating." She greeted politely, earning a HN sound from the self-proclaimed Avenger who wanted her to go away, so he could be left alone. "Why should I care? Either tell me what it is you want to go away. I have better things to do than be nagged on by an old woman." He spoke impatiently. "It should be you that is paired with Asagi Igawa, not Naruto," she stated bluntly, earning a roll of the eyes from the Uchiha. "HN. Why should that matter to me? I don't see how a woman is of any use to me, least of all one that would show an interest in a clanless good-for-nothing like the dobe." Sasuke spoke venomously, as he glared at Kaharu. "Ah. There is something you should know though, about Asagi. She was quite close with your elder brother, Itachi," Kaharu stated, her words catching the boy off guard, as his contemptuous gaze became one of curiosity upon hearing her mention his brother. "Yes. You heard me correctly. Back in Itachi's Anbu days, he and Asagi went on numerous assignments together. She was even considering making him her official partner up until the Uchiha massacre. If you had paired up with her, all of her resources, her strength, and her knowledge of your brother would have been a tremendous boon to you. She knows Itachi's techniques and strategies backwards and forwards. A shame your teachers neglected to share this information with you," the old woman stated, her words deeply resonating with the Uchiha. "If what you say is true, then it should be me that is partnered up with that woman, not the dead last. She could help me kill Itachi." Sasuke spoke in realization, as he grit his teeth. If only those incompetent teachers had told him, then he could have been paired with that Asagi woman. Her strength should belong to him, not the lover. There is still a chance. If you can convince Naruto to leave Asagi or vice versa, then you can swoop in and take Asagi as your partner instead. You two could do great things together. Koharu spoke, secretly picturing the most powerful of all the Taimanin, creating a new generation of Sharingan users. HMPH. That'll be easy. The dope's a pushover. I'm certain I can buy him off. Failing that, I can always twist his arm until he gives up. The self-proclaimed elite spoke since he had some resources of his own. Well, he didn't like the idea of bargaining with the dope of all people. The information and strength that Asagi possessed wasn't something he could ignore any longer. As luck would have it, he could even see the dope entering the courtyard now. With Naruto and Asagi. Once we have your shinobi license and passport registered, we will begin your training starting tomorrow. Asagi promised him with a serene smile on her face. Cool. I'm definitely looking forward to it. It'll be nice to get some real training and studying done rather than all that crap taught here at the academy. Naruto spoke with a big grin spreading across his cheeks. You may regret saying that. I'm a pretty strict teacher. She replied with a good-natured laugh as they approached the school. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted when a female voice shouted, "You. Hey, you." It can be Sakura, Asagi asked herself, immediately recognizing the voice of her younger sister. She and Naruto turned around and saw the form of herself marching up to them with an angry expression on her face. Sakura, as in Sakura Igawa, your sister. The whiskered teen asked for confirmation, prompting a quick nod from the almighty Taimanin. That was kind of strange. Wasn't Sakura supposed to be on a mission? It seemed like she had come home early. Ah well, it would be nice to meet and get to know his partner's family. Hello, Sakura-san. It's nice to meet you. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, your sister's partner. He warmly greeted as he extended a hand to the approaching, only to be shoved to the ground by the younger Igawa's sibling, much to both Naruto and Asagi's shared shock. Sakura, what are you doing? That's my partner. Asagi shouted as she quickly rushed to the Uzumaki's side and helped him off the ground while dusting off his clothes with her hand. You stay away from my sister, you creep. I know everything. I'm not gonna let some pervy gold digger take advantage of my big sis. If you don't break up with her, I'll beat you up. The tomboy Taimanin threatened while cracking her knuckles, her words making both the elder Igawa's sibling and the Jinchuriki exchange confused looks. What in the hell are you talking about? I didn't ask Asagi to make me her partner. She's the one that asked me. The whiskered teen clarified, earning a raised eyebrow from the, "It's true. I picked him of my own volition. I think there is some sort of misunderstanding here, Sakura. Naruto is a good guy with a big heart. If you get to know him, you'll see that for yourself." Asagi started soothingly to try and calm her younger sister. Ha! I don't know what lies you were fed, but I'm not about to let you get hurt or betrayed again. Sakura shouted, making the Uzumaki raise an eyebrow. What does she mean by again? The tomboy Taimanin then turned her attention to the Uzumaki and spoke with a sneer. You just want to take advantage of my sister and her money, right? How much money do you want before you're satisfied? Huh? Naruto rubbed the back of his head as he replied, I don't really care about your sister's money. I haven't known her for long, but she's been really good to me. Just last night, she cooked for me and even sang me a song before I went to sleep. I can't begin to describe how good that felt. To be cared for. To be accepted. To be treated like I matter. That means more to me than all the money in the world. That's all I've ever really wanted, is to be loved and accepted by someone. His heartfelt confession earned a deep blush from Asagi, who was genuinely touched by his words. His confession even had an impact on her, as she blubbered, you really don't care about her money. Or her body. Asagi is really and truly beautiful. Perhaps one of the most beautiful women I've ever met. More importantly, she is so tender and kind-hearted. Any guy would be lucky to have her as a partner, and yet she chose me. It makes me feel really happy being with her. He spoke honestly with a beaming smile on his face. They blinked a few times. From the way he spoke, he certainly didn't sound like a gold digger or creepy pervert. She now actually felt really bad for being so harsh towards him and treating him so badly. Honestly, Sakura, what got into you? Why aren't you on your mission? Asagi asked, which prompted her younger sister to hang her head in shame. I was called back, and then that Hammer guy told me that my sis was partnered with a horrible and nasty person. That's why I was so worked up. I thought maybe a bad guy had tricked you or something. The tomboy Taimanin explained while rubbing her arm. Hammer Mitakato. Asagi asked her sibling for the sake of certainty, her question prompting them to nod. Hammer? Who's that? I don't recognize that name. Naruto asked while scratching his head, though from the sounds of it, Asagi was at least familiar with the name. He is one of Sandaime Hokage's old teammates and advisors. I can't say that I know him all that well, but from the few times I met him, I got a feeling that he wasn't to be trusted. It seems that he tried to drive a wedge between us by tricking my sister into thinking you were just another gold digger, most probably so that I could be pushed into accepting Sasuke Uchiha as my partner. The almighty Taimanin explained with a deep frown. Seriously, why are people so obsessed with Sasuke? The Uzumaki asked in an exasperated manner. What was next? Some creepy-ass Sasuke worshipping cult. The assholes fangirls were, but steps away from crossing into that territory for crying out loud. I'm such an idiot. I'm really sorry for all the trouble, sis. I'm sorry to you too, Naruto. I was really mean to you, and I'm sorry for pushing you. Sakura spoke with a small sniffle, the tomboy Taimanin now looking like a hurt puppy. I can't be mad at you. You were just worried about your sister. Thanks for the apology though, I accept. Naruto stated with a broad grin, which caused them to nod in thanks. She then hummed thoughtfully, as she adopted a thinking pose, and took in his features. You know he's really handsome. I really like those adorable whisker markings. I just knew you'd pick a cutie pie. Sakura mused aloud with a small blush, giving the Jinchuriki a sultry stare that made him gulp a bit. While the elder sibling was calm and mature, it seemed like the younger one was more open and impulsive with her emotions. We can talk about this later. Asagi spoke quietly to her sister, which caused Naruto to raise an eyebrow. Talk about what exactly? He shrugged and decided not to ask about it, figuring that it was a sibling's only type of subject. Come on Naruto. We still need to get your picture taken for your registration and passport. Asagi spoke, as she took her partner's hand, and they walked into the academy side by side with her younger sister following close behind them. Unbeknownst to them, a certain self-proclaimed elite was watching them with resentment burning in his eyes. Hey Asagi, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what did your sister mean by you getting betrayed again? Did something happen in the past? The whiskered teen questioned. In response, the brunette gave her younger sister a small glare while the mouthed profuse apologies. The almighty Taimanin sighed, as she ran a hand through her hair, and said it's fine. I would have had to tell you eventually, though I was hoping it'd be later rather than sooner. Some years ago I frequently worked with Itachi Uchiha during his time in the Ando. We were very close. Itachi, as in Sasuke's big brother. The clan killer himself. The whiskered teen asked for confirmation to be certain he had heard right, and, as expected, Asagi gave a slow nod. Naruto scratched at one of his whisker markings, as he mused. I saw him around the academy a few times whenever he picked up Sasuke before the massacre. I never really talked to him, but he seemed like a nice guy. Were you two He left his unfinished question hanging, unsure if it'd be rude to ask, but Asagi seemed to pick up on his question, and answered him anyway. Were we what? Lovers? Romantically involved? No. Nothing at all like that. It'd be more accurate to say we were like siblings. He was kind of like a brother to me. I had considered making him a partner, but I didn't want him to feel pressured into having to choose between me and his family. Then the massacre happened, and he was gone. No reason or warning given. Just gone. The legendary Taimanin spoke with a wistful expression on her face. I'm awfully sorry to hear that. I can't imagine what that must have been like. The whiskered teen spoke solemnly, now kind of wishing he hadn't dug into that. It seemed like an old wound for the almighty Taimanin, and a pretty sensitive subject. At this, Sakura immediately piped in to change the subject. Hey, Naruto-kun. I still feel like you let me off a little too easily. I know. I'll buy you dinner. Wherever you want. How's that? She asked in a bubbly manner while hugging the Jinchuriki from behind, her soft squishing against the back of his head, making him blush a bit. Well, if you insist, I know just a place we can go. Naruto spoke with a small grin. I look forward to seeing the place you choose. Asagi started with a warm smile, glad to see her sister now trying to make an effort to bond with her partner, especially after that misunderstanding. Though inwardly the famed Taimanin was thinking to herself, Amar. Keep meddling in my affairs, and you won't leave me any choice but to abuse my authority a little. Something I do not like to do without just cause. Really, you're a fan of the Princess Gale series, so happy. Sakura squealed in delight at the Uzumaki, breaking her sister out of her musings. It would seem the Igawa household was going to get a lot more lively from here on. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.